Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Elizabeth and I run the blog lifefromtheviolasection.com where I share my favorite practice tips, general advice, and tech for musicians. Today I'm sharing my favorite tuning app called Tonal Energy with you. It does so much more than just helping you tune your instrument. It's super cool and I cannot wait to get into it. So as I've mentioned before, I do use an Android phone right now, but there is also an iOS version of this app and other people really love it. It's $3.99 on both platforms and is highly rated on both the App Store and the Google Play Store. So when you open up the app, it looks like this with your practice streaks and a big green smiley face telling you what your best streak has been and what your current streak is. You can share that with friends, or you can see if you have a daily goal, how that's going, what your practice time has been like in the last streak. And you can choose for it to show this page every launch, once a day, once a week, or never if you don't want to see this. So we just tap on the smiley face to really enter the app. And the first tab on the left is the tuner. So we have a bunch of different options on this tuning page. The first at the top left is what kind of temperament you'd like to tune with. There are so many different options, more than I could ever use and more that I have ever even heard of. But this would probably be very good for historical performance practice musicians. So you can choose just or equal, whichever one you prefer. And up in the top right, we have quick access to the metronome. We'll dive more in depth into the metronome in a few minutes when we go over to the separate tab. So up in the top middle, we have kind of a little counter that says how long you've been in the app today, what your streak is like, and how in tune versus out of tune you were. So green for perfectly in tune, like a yellow color for mostly in tune, orange for somewhat in tune, and red for out of tune, I have to assume. So it shows you percentages as well, and just kind of like how long you're playing and everything. Just some cool little analytics to view while you're in the app, especially if you have this up on your stand while you're playing a piece. It's a good way to track how well in tune you're playing. So moving down to like the middle right, you can choose what kind of mode you want. So if you play a wind or brass instrument, choose wind, strings, or voice. Then you can choose the in tune range. I have ultra fine because it's better for string instruments. And you can change the damping speed, which averages pitch over a longer time span and can be used for bowed string instruments. So I have mine set to slow just because that's better for string instruments because the pitch can kind of vary, so it has to kind of average all of that together. There are so many options in this app, so you can really customize what you see and what you don't see, how sensitive it is, just even if you want to see the smiley face when you're in tune or not. You have so much control in this app. Then we have this little microphone button, and it just plays different pitches for you. You can I can't talk while that's going. And you can choose for it to play different notes while you are playing, so you can kind of hear different intervals. And as you speak or tune, it shows what note you're playing and how in or out of tune you're playing. So I am just going to quickly tune so that you can see what this really looks like in use. So you could see when I was really well in tune, it gave me a little smiley face, and it's green and it's nice, especially if you have students and you want them to see that kind of visual feedback that can kind of get them excited about tuning. If you have a transposing instrument, you can even tap in the bottom right, choose transposition, or you can go by instrument. So many different options there for you. So the next tab over to the right is sound, and this is basically just a drone. So you can choose the instrument that it plays. There are different wave options, piano, winds, brass, and different types of strings. So I have mine set to viola just because that's what I typically play. You also have more transposition options in this tab. And this is the drone. And even here it shows a smiley face when it's in tune. And if you use multiple fingers, you can play different intervals. And again, we have this option, which can play whatever interval you choose, which could be really helpful if you're trying to tune a chord, something like that where you need to fit in perfectly to other notes. So again, here you can choose the mode and the range just like the page before, and you can choose to add vibrato to these drones. I personally don't really like that. I just like the true pitch. Again, up at the top left, you have the same options for the temperament and the metronome at the top right. So over to analysis. This page is really fun, and I just love playing with this while I'm talking because it basically transcribes what you're saying or playing, because, you know, ideally you'd be playing into this and not just talking for fun like I do. But it tracks what notes you're playing and if they're in tune. So there are a lot of different ways that you can view this feedback. So I personally like to see it on the grand staff. That just kind of makes the most sense for my brain. But you can choose any individual clef that you'd like. You can choose the color. I personally like it better in dark mode. You can change how amplified it is. And in addition to looking at it on the staff, you can do harmonic. So you're seeing basically like a graph, or spectral, which is also another graph, but in frequencies. Super cool. I don't totally understand it, but it's very interesting. And finally, waveform / pitch, and this just shows you the waves, and it also labels the notes at the bottom. So I think these are just super cool to play around with and look at. It's just so cool. But you know, if you're playing a piece and you want to play it really well in tune, then at least with this, you can see each note and you can see exactly which note was in tune, which one wasn't. So much information and feedback for you while you're practicing. And again, on this page, you have a bunch of different settings that you can change. The same settings as before. In the top left, you can change the temperament, metronome at the top right, and the mode and range. So the fourth tab on the bottom is the metronome. The metronome has so many different features. This is probably like the best metronome you could have on your phone, except the interface isn't very pretty or especially user-friendly. I feel like this interface could really be updated just to make it more exciting and a little easier and more fun to use, because I never got this app for years because I thought it looked just so old-fashioned and just not super high-tech. But there are so many options, so don't exclude it simply for that reason. It's worth it. Very top left, it shows the beat, what gets the beat, and then next we have meter. There are so many different meters that you can choose from. Absolutely crazy. Basically anything you could want. And then on the right, choose the subdivision, and there are so many different options here. Basically any kind of rhythm you could think of. So directly below that, we have the beats and the measure, and then below that we have presets. So this is just their standard presets, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, and 3/8. But you can, I'm sure you can change those presets to whatever you typically use the most. So when you change it, it changes how many beats it shows visually. This little list menu, this is where you can change the presets. Next to that option, you can loop certain measures, or you can have like a measure 4/4, measure 3/4, back to 4/4. You can customize this so much. It's like so cool. Then to the right of that, there are so many different options for you, just changing the tempo, however many bars you want the tempo to change, if you want random beats silenced to try to, you know, make things harder for yourself, and like how long you want it to go on. It can be manipulated in so many different cool ways. Then next we have a count in option, so it counts you in. So let's just start the metronome now. I'm gonna make the tempo a little faster.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So in the stop square, it shows you how many measures you've played. So we're now in the 5th measure. And now measure 6. So it keeps track of how long the metronome has been going, which I think is pretty cool. So of course you can tap the tempo to find a a specific tempo. They're never really that accurate just because there's so much human error. But if you'd like to manually put in the tempo, just click on the number. It gives you a whole keypad. You can even add decimals so that it's a super, super exact tempo, whatever you want. And of course the plus or minus buttons, which is what I typically use to change the tempo. So we have a settings wheel down here, just more of the same kind of settings. And then eighth note equals eighth note. If you're switching between different types of meters, you can choose not to have an accent. So
1, 2, 3, 4.
all beats sound the same now. I personally like having the accent. Then if you click on the light bulb, it will show you flashing in the app. I like that the downbeat, which is accented, has a different color than the other beats. Then there are so many different options for the metronome sounds, so you can find one that you really like or one that you really hate if that's what you're into. There are so many different sounds, different ways to manipulate it. You can change the voice sound for the count in. There's so much you can do. It's just so cool. So the final tab is preferences. This is just a bunch more settings. You can change what concert A is. I personally tuned to 441, but you can just write whatever you want in, whatever you use, whether that's 440 or Baroque tuning, anything you want. You can have auto key detect, auto transpose, auto octave rounding. You can change how often you show the streaks at the beginning of opening the app. All of these different options, analysis options. You can even add recordings. You can take recordings in the app and kind of analyze those. There are just so many different things that you can do with this app, and it's so cool. I kind of feel like I've hardly scratched the surface so far, but if I find something super interesting in this app that I haven't shown you in today's video, I will definitely make a new video just for that, because there are so many things you can do in this app. It's just really, really cool. And I discounted this app for years just because I thought it looked really old and I assumed it hadn't been updated in a while and it would just be kind of hard to use. It's not nearly as hard to use as I thought, and yes, I would like for them to update the interface just to look a little more modern and user-friendly, but it gets the job done, and it gets the job done really well, which is super exciting. And I'm also really excited because I've had my Android since 2019, and until a few months ago I didn't use this app, and I never really had a tuning app that I loved. So finally I have one that works really well for me, and of course I'm hoping to get the next iPhone that comes out in the fall, so probably won't have an Android for much longer, but I will absolutely be purchasing this again once I get an iPhone and I'm on the App Store again, because I really do love it that much. I think $3.99 is definitely a worthwhile investment for all of the customization features and options that you get. It's really, really great to enhance your practice, especially with the metronome features. All the subdivisions and being able to skip beats is really a great way to train yourself rhythmically. If you have any questions about Tonal Energy, or if you have any cool tricks that you found within the app that you'd like to share, please leave a comment down below. I would love to make more videos about this app, and I personally would love to learn more about it. If you liked today's video, please consider subscribing to my channel. I post new musical videos every Sunday at noon, and I do have a Ko-fi profile where you can support my free content if you feel so generous. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.